Hello trainers, Professor Palm here. Legendary Pokemon are not only a staple of our world and the games, but they're also some of the strongest Pokemon out there. After all, so many legendary Pokemon have lived since the ancient times. Also, every region introduces a new one, and they come in many shapes and sizes. But they're also very popular, as for almost every core series game, they have a legendary Pokemon as the mascot. In fact, because of this, fans even know them as the box art legendary. We have so many legendary Pokemon as they come in a variety of typings, a variety of shapes, and sizes. There are almost too many to count. However, just because we have so many legendary Pokemon, unfortunately means that some legendary Pokemon sit on the sidelines while others bask in the glory. I mean, if you really think about it, in most of the core series games, we're more distracted on catching the box art legendary than the side legendaries. Take the Reggie trio, for example. As cool as these Pokemon are, unfortunately, they really haven't ever had a lot of stuff that goes with them, until much later on. So yeah, sometimes some legendary Pokemon don't have their moment yet, but eventually it comes. For a brief time, the Sinnoh region was the one region that introduced the most amount of legendary Pokemon, as there were so many to count. While we had the box art legendaries, there were also a lot of side legendary Pokemon that really made the game so memorable. In fact, there were a lot of really cool events that we could catch these Pokemon in. Out of all the legendary Pokemon that were introduced in the Sinnoh region, I'd have to say that my personal favorite was the Stark Mountain Dweller, Heatran. This is one of the coolest legendary Pokemons ever introduced. I remember looking at that typing and thinking, wow, that's awesome. And also, I think it just has such a unique design. This really feels like something that truly was born in the volcanoes. While dual typing is very common for legendary Pokemon, how many of them can actually say that they have the most unique dual typing as no other Pokemon shares its own typing? Well, Heatran is one of them because of its fire and steel typing. One of the coolest combinations ever. I hope that we never get another one because that's what makes this Pokemon really shine through. Whether or not the legend is true that Heatran was created with a magma reaction of molten metal, or Arceus created this incredible Pokemon, something broke the mold. They made one of the most powerful and dangerous legendary Pokemon ever. Heatran, being a volcano dweller, really shows just how dangerous it is when you take on a fire god. Heatran really is one of my favorite legendary Pokemon of all time. I just wish that Pokemon Legends Arceus gave it more time to shine. In fact, I really wish that it gave us a DLC to give Heatran a chance and even give it a second life. Well, I want to share with you why I love this Pokemon so much. So, let's talk all about the Stark Mountain Volcano Dweller, Heatran. But before we do that, I want to give a very special thanks and shout out to artist TechraNova for my shirt. Today's shirt is the Fire Ape Within. If you really like these Within shirts that I wear, you can buy them on Etsy. I have a link to TechraNova's Etsy shop in the description below. I think that you'll look great in one of these shirts. Stop buying those silly stock images. Get something really cool like this. Also, be sure to tell TechraNova Professor Palm sent you. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to say thank you for all you've done, TechraNova. Stand back, trainers. An eruption is imminent. Heatran's short fuse is about to make this Pokemon explode. So, let's talk all about this Volcano Dweller. Let's learn everything we need to know about the Lava Dome Pokemon, Heatran. I burned myself! Heatran, the Lava Dome Pokemon, is based on volcanic remains. Heatran's steel typing draws reference to Earth's inner core and how it's made of solid metal under immense heat and pressure. But then again, with how hot and how heavy Heatran is, it's also known as the living core. For this legendary Pokemon's habitat, Heatran prefers to live within deep volcanic caves. Its hot body does very well in lava, and it can also be found sleeping and crawling around in these molten pits, as Heatran really likes to be in the immense heat. When looking at Heatran's feet, this Pokemon has a design unlike any other, as Heatran's cross-leg feet have the ability to allow it to crawl on the ceilings and on the walls. In fact, Heatran can walk upside down for hours as long as it wants, and the only time it will fall is when it wants to of its own free will. Heatran is an expert at digging, all thanks to its 4 feet. It's believed that its home in Stark Mountain Cave was completely dug out by itself. It's also claimed that Heatran is so fast at digging a hole that it could dig a 10-foot hole in less than 2 minutes. Its body is made of a special kind of rugged steel. However, its own body cannot endure its own heat. And if you look carefully at Heatran's body, it's partially melted in some spots. And that's all because of this intense heat and even some lava that Heatran has left on it. Heatran has a very short fuse and it's very quick to anger. The angrier it gets, the hotter it becomes. While it's the living core, some see Heatran as a walking meltdown. Some claim that Heatran has boiling blood like magma coursing through its veins. This magma blood circulates throughout its body, powering up its fire attacks and even powering up all of its anger. It's believed that its magma blood has a link to lava, as both of them can be equally as hot. It's also believed that that's the reason why Heatran is so good with magma and lava, because it has its own within it. According to Professor Laverton, back in the olden days of the Hisui region, he claims that there are stories that Heatran was born from the boiling magma within the heart of Mount Coronet. Its molten steel body holds many mysteries because this is a metal unlike anything else found on our planet. Heatran made its debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Sinnoh League Victors episode, An Old Family Blend, where a trainer had a Heatran seen outside of the Lily of the Valley conference. Yeah, out of all these trainers who just had normal Pokemon, just one walks in with a Heatran. Nothing to see here, folks, just a normal Pokemon. Every Pokemon has some fun facts. So here's a few hot tidbits about Heatran. Heatran is currently the only of its kind, as there is no other Pokemon that has the same combination of fire and steel. And because of this typing, Heatran has the most amount of double resistances of all Pokemon, with 5, being Steel, Bug, Grass, Ice, and Fairy type. While some legendary Pokemon had genders, like Latios and Latias, Heatran was the first legendary Pokemon that could be either male or female, and it's currently the only legendary Pokemon to have a 50-50 gender ratio. Along with Chimchar, Monferno, Infernape, and Magmortar, Heatran is one of the only 5 Fire-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 4. And in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time, and Explorers of Darkness, Heatran stood as the guardian of Fire Drum Island, while in Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almaya, Heatran was the guardian of the Red Gem. Heatran has one of the most unique typings, as it's the only of its kind, being Fire and Steel. But this Lava Dome Pokemon has itself weaknesses. For attacks that Heatran is weak to, this living core cannot stand being hit by moves that are Water type and Fighting type. Both Water type and Fighting type moves are only 2 times weakness for its dual typing of Fire and Steel. Heatran has one major weakness, and that is to Ground type attacks, as its dual typing is 4 times weak to these moves. These weaknesses may slow it down, but trust me, this Pokemon has so much power building up that its strength speaks for itself. Heatran sure knows how to heat things up when it goes into battle. They don't call this Pokemon the Living Core for nothing, as when Heatran fights with its dual typing of Fire Steel, it unleashes firepower and stainless strength that has the power to take down Pokemon who are Bug type, Rock type, Steel type, Grass type, Ice type, and Fairy type. Against all these typings, they better prepare themselves to face the ruler of the volcanoes, as they're about to face an eruption like no other. And Heatran also has an immunity, as its Steel typing prevents it from being hurt by moves which are Poison type. And with all of those strengths and that immunity to back up Heatran, one can see the firepower and strength that this Lava Dome Pokemon packs. Every Pokemon has an ability, as that's what makes them special, and Heatran's ability is Flash Fire. When it battles and is hit with a Fire type move, instead of taking any damage, Heatran's firepower will increase. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. And for hidden abilities that were added in Generation 5, Heatran has the hidden ability Flame Body. When an opponent makes contact with Heatran, it'll get burned, and rightfully so, because Heatran's body is as hot as lava. After all, when you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. Heatran has always been a standout legendary Pokemon in my opinion, because unlike most others who are part of a duo, a trio, or even serve themselves as a trio master, Heatran is a complete standalone legendary. However, with its one-of-a-kind typing, it's honestly kinda hard to think of there ever being an equal to this living core Pokemon. Arceus truly broke the mold when he created Heatran. While not every legendary Pokemon gets their chance to shine, I sadly feel that Heatran got robbed in Pokemon Legends Arceus. While we could catch Heatran in the Lava Dome Sanctum, I think that the game should have had DLC where we travel to a place called Stark Island, which in the future would become the Battle Frontier area. This also would have been really cool as our task would have been learning and even catching Heatran. Also, this could have explained how the other island became the Battle Frontier area. Groudon may be the creator of the mountains as well as so many other areas, and Tyranitar just might be the king of the mountains, but neither of them come close to being as powerful as Heatran is. Wherever this Lava Dome Pokemon goes, an eruption will always follow. Also, this Pokemon is so hot that everything around it is going to melt. After all, this Pokemon has a living magma body. With how hot-tempered Heatran is, I think it's better that this Pokemon prefers to live deep within the mountains and near the lava. It's a walking meltdown that's about to go critical. You better prepare yourself when you find this Pokemon and it gets angry, because just like a volcano, when Heatran has a meltdown, it blows its top. Welcome back, trainers. As you can see, I burned myself with its lava body. I should have known not to touch a living lava Pokemon. Well, I hope that you liked learning everything we need to know about this hot living core Pokemon. But before we end this, I just have a few questions for all of you. Heatran is the only of its kind, being the only fire and steel type Pokemon. Do you think that that's one of the most unique typings? Or what do you think is one of the most unique dual typings of all time? Also, what legendary Pokemon has your favorite dual typing? Like I said earlier about my idea for Pokemon Legends Arceus having a DLC, Journey to Stark Island, do you think that would have been a cool idea to introduce Heatran and we should have had another quest about it? Also, do you think it would have been really cool to learn how Stark Mountain and Battle Frontier came to be? While I find Heatran a very underrated legendary Pokemon, who do you think is one of the most underrated legendary Pokemon of all time? Since all 5 of these are legit the only 5 fire-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 4, do you think that we needed more fire-type Pokemon? Also, do we need another fire-type legendary Pokemon? And who is your favorite legendary Pokemon introduced in the Sinnoh region? I hope that all of you enjoyed learning all about Heatran, and you can see why it's one of my favorite legendary Pokemon of all time. Well, if you liked what you saw, then please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want me to talk about another legendary, mythical, or any other Pokemon line, you want me talking about something going on in the Pokemon news, you want an idea turned into a video, or you have an idea of something I should do, then please comment. And as always, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. As a Pokemon professor, it's my job to teach trainers like all of you out there. So please feel free to share my videos to all other trainers out there. I'm really glad to meet as many of you as I can. And thanks for watching, trainers. Palm out.